Movie summary. Hello, everyone. America, 1931. Black workers could barely get hired beyond janitorial jobs. On his very first day, Dr. Alfred Blalock notices him. Blalock hands him a pair of forceps. He takes them and gently lifts a test tube. Surprised, Blalock tells him to try with his left hand. This time, he not only does it easily, he uses both hands to cap it perfectly at the same time. Blalock can't believe his eyes. He's practiced this surgical technique for the past 15 years, yet this young janitor, barely 20 years old, does it like it's nothing. Then Blalock asks, "What's that instrument on the table called?" The young man answers without hesitation, "That's a vernier caliper, sir." A complex tool like that, and he names it perfectly. Spot on. Blalock is even more impressed. So the next day, Vivien Thomas puts on a white lab coat and is appointed as Blalock's assistant. Staring at himself in the mirror, Thomas feels incredibly proud, because ever since he was a kid, he dreamed of becoming a doctor, but his family was poor, so he only made it through high school. Then he had to go out and hustle for work. Even so, Thomas never gave up on his goal. That's why he chose to work as a cleaner at a medical institute. His real plan was simple. After hours, he could read rare medical books for free, right there. And he also knew, as Blalock's assistant, he had to work twice as hard. Because in America before the 1970s, for black people, effort alone wasn't enough. You had to seize every tiny chance you got. Soon, under Blalock's guidance, Thomas gets his first real chance to do an experiment. To verify their research, they use a puppy as the test subject. Blalock draws a straight line and tells Thomas to operate along that line. Anesthesia, incision, artery separation, every movement is unbelievably smooth. The surgery is a success, but when it's time to stitch the wound, Blalock realizes Thomas never turned on the recording device before suturing, which means they've lost the proof and evidence to show the world the experiment worked. Thomas quickly explains, I didn't know where to set up the recorder." Blalock explodes and chews him out. "Do my words go in one ear and out the other? Damn it, do I have to do everything myself? All of today's work ruined. Is your head filled with mush or what?" Hearing that, Thomas feels stung. He thought his moment had finally arrived, but here he still isn't respected. Thomas walks away. And right then, a notebook catches Blalock's eye. Turns out, Thomas had already written the whole procedure down, and every step is documented carefully, precisely. Blalock realizes he judged him wrong. He immediately runs after Thomas, holding the white lab coat in his hands. "I'm sorry." He promises he won't do that again. Seeing the sincerity, Thomas hesitates. After all, in that era, a white man apologizing to a black man was almost unheard of. And he chooses to forgive Blalock. Before long, their experiment is presented to the medical world. Blalock wins a position at Johns Hopkins. But during his acceptance speech, even though the work belonged to both of them, he never mentions Thomas's name. The reason is simple, because Thomas is black. Back home, his wife can't hide her resentment. For his dream, the whole family had to leave their hometown, crammed into this tiny, dark room, day after day. And when he finally achieves something, it's brushed aside like it meant nothing. Thomas isn't okay with it either, but he understands even more clearly. Getting into Johns Hopkins means everything. It's heaven for every surgeon. And there, they can research a new disease, congenital heart disease, also known as a congenital heart defect. Thomas believes if he can push through this barrier, a brighter future will finally open up. But he never expected that for black people. Forget studying. He can't even enter Johns Hopkins through the front door. Hold it. Black staff have to use the back entrance and swipe in. He's with me. Doesn't matter. Still no. Can congenital heart disease be treated? It's hard to imagine what happens when the heart stops working completely. With this condition, blood can't flow to the lungs. Children turn pale and bluish and squat down on their knees just to ease the pain. In America before the 1970s, surgery became the only hope for those kids. After receiving the assignment, Blalock and Thomas begin their research. First, they must solve the blockage problem. At the pulmonary artery and aorta, Thomas suggests using an artificial shunt to connect the heart to the pulmonary artery so blood can reach the lungs again. It's a bold idea, and Blalock agrees. But the operation is extremely complex. A child's blood vessels are tiny, and standard surgical clamps are completely unusable. On top of that, medical equipment back then is painfully scarce. In the hospital, they don't even have a ventilator. So Thomas racks his brain, uses his mechanical skills, and builds a mini surgical clamp by hand. Then, using what he learned from books, he even makes a homemade ventilator. Now the tools are finally ready. Next comes the testing. They find a puppy, treat it like it has a congenital heart defect, and then they test whether the mini clamp is actually workable. After trials on 200 puppies, Thomas's surgical skill reaches near perfection. In fact, he can almost operate by feel, eyes closed, because after so many experiments, he's memorized every vessel and pathway like the back of his hand. One day, a white doctor walks in. Seeing Thomas's flawless technique, he's genuinely amazed. He says he's never seen anything like it, and hopes one day he can become Thomas's colleague. Thomas is thrilled. He thinks finally he's earned a little status in white people's eyes. But reality hits differently. At work, the other cleaners still stare at him like he's strange. Walking the halls, white people's eyes follow him everywhere. And at lunch, even other black workers mock him. You're just a low-rank worker, a low-rank worker. Thomas doesn't understand at first. He asks around and learns he's still classified as the lowest-level employee, and your rank determines your pay. He's been studying non-stop, working 16 hours a day, yet he earns only $20 a month. He assumed everyone's pay was low. Turns out the lowest paycheck belongs to him alone. What's even more infuriating, he's been doing this for 13 years. Does anyone really live on ideals alone? He still has a family to feed. Thomas assumes Blalock arranged all of this. But in reality, Blalock knows nothing about the administrative side. Later, Blalock visits Thomas's home and explains what happened. He helps Thomas recover $300 in back pay and even gets him promoted to surgical technician. And that's not all. He brings even better news. Their work is moving into clinical trials. 15 years of blood and sweat almost paying off. Thomas thanks Blalock for fighting for justice. He can't wait for the first clinical surgery. But he never expected that. Right before the operation, Blalock receives a notice. Black staff are not allowed in the operating room. After more than a decade together, Blalock is used to having Thomas beside him. In fact, no one can replace Thomas's hands. Blalock wants to win him that chance, but it would take time, too much time. Thomas might be able to wait, but those poor children can't wait any longer. An attack hits within an hour. The child's face turns blue, struggling to breathe. The child is wheeled into surgery, hooked to an oxygen mask. Everything is set. Then Blalock suddenly stops. His pause makes the experts start whispering, because this is the very first heart surgery in medical history. A child's vessels are too small. Thomas's handmade clamp is the key to everything. But in this racist era, black people aren't qualified to take part in a surgery this big. Blalock is furious. He storms out of the operating room, ignoring everyone's protests, and orders Thomas to come in immediately. Vivien Thomas, are you here? Get to the operating room, now. The moment Thomas hears, he sprints over. But the administrators try to block him at the door. Yet at this moment, the whole world is watching. For appearances, they're forced to back down. The operation begins. Blalock is the lead surgeon, with Thomas standing behind him. Every move, Blalock asks Thomas for guidance. Which instrument to use, which approach to take. Nothing happens without Thomas's approval. The experts in the gallery murmur non-stop, and on the table, they reach the critical stage. Blalock grips Thomas's handmade clamp and starts working on the tiny vessels. Thomas watches every motion, meticulous and focused. Finally, with the team's effort, the surgery is completed successfully, and now the child's face slowly turns pink again, which means they've opened a new era in heart surgery. Blalock, cheered on by everyone, walks out of the operating room. In an instant, the news spreads worldwide. Blalock's fame shoots to the top. But right as he becomes famous, A colleague's words stab him in the heart. He's lucky that black guy helped him. That's his lifeline. Take that black guy away and let's see what he can do. Just like that. Blalock feels his dignity has been humiliated, and in his mind, all of it becomes Thomas's fault. So he dumps all his frustration onto Thomas. During interviews, Blalock invites the surgical team to take photos together, but Thomas isn't included. Even at award speeches, there's no Thomas. He introduces each doctor by name. And the sad part is, Thomas is standing right beside him, yet Blalock never once says his name, as if this success had nothing to do with Thomas at all. Thomas falls into the abyss again. He believed that if he achieved something, he would be recognized. But in the end, it feels like it was all for nothing. He goes to Blalock to resign. Blalock thinks Thomas is being unreasonable again. Why are you doing this? This time I'm not blaming them, I'm blaming you. I brought you this far. And now you're throwing it away. Why? Is this how you repay me? In the end, Thomas is completely crushed. He accepts a life of discrimination and starts making a living selling medical supplies. Slowly, life becomes stable. Everyone at home believes his choice was the right one. After all, he's earning more money now than before, but only his wife understands. Thomas isn't happy at all. Because he was born to be a doctor, even after leaving the hospital, his heart never truly left that place. So, with his wife's encouragement, Thomas goes back to reconcile with Blalock. This time he doesn't want fame or profit, only his passion and his dream. And just like that, he works there for 25 years. He trains countless outstanding surgeons, one after another, and his handmade clamp helps save so many tiny lives. By then, Blalock is old. He looks at his portrait on the wall, and memories flood back. They went from boss and assistant to teacher and student, and finally, colleagues. Across 34 years of working side by side, their effort and dedication forged an unbreakable bond. But not long after, Blalock dies from illness. Two partners who couldn't be separated, now only one remains. In the end, thanks to years of tireless contribution, Thomas finally earns the respect he always deserved. In 1976, Johns Hopkins awards him an honorary doctorate and also gives him a portrait. At that moment, decades of discrimination finally end. Right there, he quietly stares at the portrait hanging on the wall, and his eyes fill with tears. If you say, youthful passion has become the past, then remember the road behind you, because that's where our deepest self truly lives, where dreams shine the clearest. And that's it for today's movie summary. Bye and see you next time.